Can you look as good as 007 in off-the-rack clothing? Or do you have to go to Savile Row or buy a custom-made suit to look as good as any of the James Bonds? Today we're taking a look at the movie License to Kill, starring Timothy Dalton, in which he wears off-the-rack suits. So let's take a close look at those and see how good James Bond looks in off-the-rack clothing. I'm Michael, and welcome to my channel for the love of suits. If you're new here, we find inspiration on how to dress well from the best dressed men on the screen. Drop a new video every Wednesday and shorts throughout the week. I've been a menswear enthusiast for over 20 years, and I've been working in the industry for the last 10 years, particularly working closely with tailors. So I've been on both sides of the measuring tape. So for this movie and the previous movie, The Living Daylights, Timothy Dalton insisted on having off-the-rack clothing rather than the traditionally tailor-made suiting for James Bond. Why he did it is a little bit of a controversy. And in fact, I believe he had a bit of a falling out with Jodie Tillen, the costume designer. Since presenting that last video, I was delighted to learn there are actually a lot of Timothy Dalton fans. In fact, many people left comments in the last section saying that they felt he was the Bond actor that was most like the Bond in the books. I have never read the books myself, so I'm going on what they're telling me. However, there seems to be a bit of a disagreement on how he handled it. While Bond hated waste and extravagance, he actually did like to dress well and spend money on his clothing. So Timothy Dalton's interpretation of Bond wearing off the rack may be slightly misguided. So let's take a look and see how good he looks compared to the other Bonds with his off-the-rack clothing. And in this case, the suits were purchased from Stefano Ricci, who has stores all over the world. And Stefano Ricci is well known for producing suits using fabrics that are comfortable in hot weather. So it was a good choice because a lot of this movie is set in Miami. Let's get straight into it and look at 4 different costumes that Bond wears throughout this movie and see how they fare. Interestingly, this movie opens on a wedding scene and Bond is dressed in morning clothes. What are morning clothes exactly? You may have heard the expression a morning coat or an evening coat. This refers to very traditional wear, and these days, the only place you're bound to see either would be at a wedding. A morning coat and an evening coat both have tails, but they do differ in style slightly from each other. So the morning coat has a very nice curve coming from the front of the jacket, sweeping to the tails at the back. An evening coat is straight cut at the waist on the front, with the tails hanging separately at the back. Like most formal wear, peak lapels are a must when it comes to morning wear. And here we have a very classic and excellent choice, particularly if you're going to go this route for getting married, the dove grey morning coat. Traditionally, the jacket should have one button on the front and be worn with a vest. The trousers in this case have double reverse pleats, and there's a beautiful dove grey waistcoat to go with it with 5 metal shanked buttons and 2 jetted pockets. The white shirt has a wing collar and a pleated bib. And let's take a look at that cravat. It's a beautifully styled cravat in black, grey and white stripes. And I think the wingtip collar here really helps show it off. And in his lapel, a significant boutonniere, a large white carnation. This is a reference back to the previous Bond wedding on Her Majesty's Secret Service, where George Lazenby as Bond got married and wore a large white carnation. And of course, the crowning touch of the costume is the grey felt top hat. Love the look of top hats, and it complements the waistcoat perfectly. This hat was sourced from Lock & Co, an absolutely fabulous place to visit if you're ever in London. It can be quite expensive, but even if you don't intend on buying anything, it's well worth finding in St. James's area of London, and it's a beautiful store to visit. Why would you want to go with morning dress for a wedding? The main reason would be this will never date. It is so old-fashioned and so traditional. Your wedding photographs will look classic. So if you had the opportunity, I would definitely suggest morning dress for a wedding. You would not regret it. Gentlemen and ladies, today I have a special offer from my channel. Louis Copeland, Ireland's leading menswear brand and store, is giving away a very high quality silk tie worth over €100. All you have to do to enter is simply make sure you're subscribed to both my Instagram channel and my YouTube channel. They're both called For the Love of Suits. Once you have subscribed to both, you'll be automatically entered into the draw. And you can choose which tie you like best from the Louis Copeland brand on the Louis Copeland website, louiscopeland.com. There are many beautiful ties, and you can choose the colour and the pattern you like best. And it doesn't matter where in the world you are, they deliver worldwide. Just leave a comment on this video saying subscribed. I will reply to you directly in the comments section. Watch out for scammers, especially those with a Telegram address. Not only are Louis Copeland giving away this free tie, they're also offering you up to 50% off. Yes, you heard that right, 50% off. There are some exclusions on the website. You can choose from a wide range of luxury brands in sweaters, shirts, t-shirts, chinos, jeans, and even jackets. And again, they ship worldwide. Don't forget to enter the code FTLOS for the love of suits when you're making your purchase. So don't hesitate. Go now and make sure you're subscribed to both my Instagram and my YouTube channel, and good luck with the draw. Have you ever wondered what James Bond would look like if he starred in Miami Vice? No, me neither, but now we get a chance to take a look. This movie is mostly set in Miami, and the TV show Miami Vice and the colours and environment of Miami definitely influenced her choices for James Bond suits. And for those of you who have never watched an episode of Miami Vice, we are talking about light fabrics, loose-fitting cuts, and padded, extended shoulders. It's a very 1980s look, but this is the end of the 1980s, so thankfully not as much as Richard Gere in American Gigolo. The suit is made from a beautiful tropical weight wool. Yes, you can wear wool in hot weather. A tropical weight wool might sound a little bit misleading. It can be very light, but what it means is that it has an open weave and is very breathable. This means that if there's a breeze, the air passes right through the suit and cools you down. Also, if you get quite hot, the heat also passes through the weave. I actually prefer a high twist open weave wool to linen for wearing in hot weather. Having said that, I'm actually wearing a linen suit today. The fabric is from Holland & Sherry, and it's a blend of linen and a special fabric they call Teclana that they made up for strengthening, very lightweight linen. I wanted to buy a second pair of trousers for this suit, but when I went to buy it, the fabric was sold out, and I only have Tom Hiddleston to blame for that. Despite the extended shoulders and the somewhat dated 1980s look of the suit, I don't think it looks bad at all. It is loose fit, but not too loose. It's nicely cut, but you will notice that the gorge on the lapels, this part where either the notch or the peak has been cut into the lapel, is very low in his suit. This is quite an Armani 80s look. It's a medium width notch lapel, very good proportions. And it's a 2-button jacket, but you will also notice the button stance is quite low on the jacket. That means where it's fastened is quite low. Again, very 1980s, very Armani. It has 2 traditional flap pockets on the hip pockets and no vent at the back. And he has complemented the suit with a blue shirt open collar. And when you're in a hot climate, having an open collar is definitely no crime. In fact, it's quite suitable. Wearing a tie may make other people around you feel quite uncomfortable and hot. And the trousers have triple reverse pleats. Obviously, reverse pleats were very in the late 1980s. If you're enjoying this video so far, then please like and subscribe. It really helps the channel. Or if you're feeling generous, become a member. And check out our comment section. We have a great community there. So what is the difference between loose fit clothing that looks good and loose fit clothing that looks baggy? Well, the difference is obviously one looks good and looks like it fits you and the other doesn't. So let's take a quick look at some of the casual clothing on Bond in this movie. But more than anything, in the heat, if you think that getting excessively loose fit clothing is going to make you feel cooler, it's not. All that excess fabric is actually going to make you feel hotter. Whether you like a slim fit or a loose fit, your clothing should be cut right and fit you well. The navy shirt jacket or shacket that he is wearing here, extremely baggy, very reminiscent of 1980s fashion. A fashion that ran into the 90s but has thankfully passed. The jacket is from Fred Segal in Los Angeles, but hopefully he has updated his style by now. And in a later scene, he's wearing a white open collar shirt underneath. And he's matched this navy jacket nicely with a pair of beige chinos and some kind of summer wear loafer on his feet, possibly boat shoes or even espadrilles. So, a key question that I've pondered myself a few times. If you really like a suit, can you buy the same suit in more than one color and will it look good? Here we have either exactly the same suit or a very similar suit also purchased from Stefano Ricci in blue rather than grey. It's the same style suit, we've got that low gorge, we've got that low button stance, and we've got those wide extended shoulders. But all said and done, it still looks like a pretty decent suit and fits him quite well. And the open collar shirt works very well in any warm environment. It looks fine in a movie as a costume, particularly with a long break between the first suit and the second suit. However, if you were tempted to cut corners, either time-wise or financially, by buying the same suit in 2 different colours, it's going to look a little weird when you wear them on a daily basis. Thankfully, I didn't make this mistake with suits, but I did make it with some of my casual clothes earlier on. And people actually start to notice that you have the same suit. Change the lapel style, change the cut style, change the pocket style, change something about them that will help differentiate them. Don't get 2 exactly the same suits in 2 different colours. And so once again, let's revisit that question. What is the difference between a loose fit suit and a baggy suit? Well, here I can show you a beautiful example of one that looks good and one that looks quite ridiculous and quite clownish. So Timothy Dalton's suit would be described as a loose fitting suit. Be very comfortable to wear, particularly in a hot climate. Where we're looking at the villain Stride here, we're going to find he looks quite ridiculous and quite clownish in an extremely baggy suit. It doesn't look good, and once again also carrying all that extra fabric and extra weight is actually going to make you feel even hotter. So what do you think of how Timothy Dalton is dressed in this movie as Bond? Can you look as good as Bond in an off-the-rack suit? However, there are certain things that you must keep in mind. Fit, fabric, and environment. If you're lucky enough to be able to get off-the-rack clothing to fit you, you're going to save a lot of money and you're going to have a huge range of clothing to choose from. And even if they don't quite fit right, you can get your suits tailored after buying them off the rack. Just remember, as far as the suit is concerned, the jacket shoulders cannot be altered. Fabric is a very close second. Spending a little bit of money on a quality fabric will make all the difference to how you look in your suit, even if you're buying off the rack. And environment. What style suit you wear whether it's going to be slim fit, loose fit, open collar, shirt and tie. All of that will depend on where you're wearing your suit and whether you live in a hot or a cold climate. So thank you very much for watching through to the end. I really appreciate it. It helps the channel. And please subscribe. I'll have more of these tips coming showing you some of the best dressed men on the screen and how to style your suits.